All right, let's call the April 12th Planning and Zoning Commission, local planning agency to order. We'll do the invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody stand. Please bow your head. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord God. Thank you and help us as we do the work of the city, Lord. We ask you to bless us during this holy week, Lord. Thank you for dying on the cross for our sins. We ask you, Lord, that you keep and protect our citizens, our first responders, and the employees of the city. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll do the roll call.
Chair Lomnick.
Here.
Vice Chair Mellon.
Here.
Member Kennedy.
Here.
Member Forges.
Here.
Member Williams.
Here.
Alternate Member Keller.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Consent agenda, can I get an approval for the meeting last March 8th?
I'll make that motion to approve the meeting, the last meeting.
Thank you. Approve the minutes. Perfect. We have a motion by Member Mellon and a second by Member Williams to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good goes. We have no old business. New business, we have the Regency preliminary large-scale site plan. This is a public hearing on LS 2022001. Services Director Mike Rumor.
Yes, Chairman, this is really an exciting opportunity in front of us in an area that we master planned back in 2015. I know Commissioner Keller remembers that time, and we are seeing a little bit of fruit of our work with the Boyd property, with the Sunnies going in and the Tijuana Flats, and that sort of set this area off. The area is located in our community redevelopment agency area, and we have a specific zoning overlay called the CRA Target Area 1. And in that CRA, we have 3 target areas. This area is Target Area 1, everything from McGuire over to the wetlands. It used to go to Marshall Farms, but we brought it back to the other side of the wetlands on the west, heading west. Target Area 2 is everything around Lake Bennett. Target Area 3 is the hospital's property. We do not have a specific zoning overlay on the hospital land. We just have a master plan layout to show them how it could develop. Again, this is the Regency. It's a multifamily mixed-use development in Target Area 1, and the location is on the west side of McGuire Road, directly across from Old Winter Garden Road where it terminates, and we have some political signs and other things right there starting at the property. And then it borders the Florida Turnpike on the south. This is the areas of, with the red outline is every area in our CRA, which is a tax increment financing area where we can help better that area through the increase in property taxes. We put money back into the area. With that, we did an exhaustive public input, creating overlays, creating a sense of place. We sort of look at our State Road 50 corridor as a possible area for a midtown feel. And this development certainly falls in line with that criteria. And you can see Target Area 1 is in the yellow here. This is the area. The land's all undeveloped. It consists of 3 parcels and 2 different property owners. Everything I have highlighted, and I'm going to jump out of this PowerPoint real quick and show you. I forgot to add a slide. But I want to show you the plan in our comprehensive plan to extend Old Winter Garden Road up to State Road 50. It'll come right here across from Economic Court. It's a full, this intersection has a full median opening for a future signal and road. So I'm going to jump out real quick. Just give you this is my artwork. Thank you. So we're not exactly sure. The subject property is see, the extension will bifurcate this property. So the parcel 1, parcel 2, parcel 3. We know the road will start here and it'll end up here. Whether we think the best opportunity is for a curve, but it could be a right angle, maybe a roundabout, but we don't have that in play, these other properties to the north. So they have the full property, then they have these two on the southern, and the right-of-way would kind of go along this property line. So there's going to be, as part of this development, creating the start of the Old Winter Garden Road extension as far as you can plan for what they own. So I just wanted to kind of show you this. This is the future extension of Old Winter Garden Road, and we have it in our comprehensive plan. We have applied for grants and federal funding to get this. We did get HDR did a sort of an analysis and came up with the curve scenario that we think might be what ends up at the end of the day, but again, it's not set in stone, and it is not designed and engineered at this point. Jump back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so it's sort of what's going on in the area. This is the first thing we did with the target area was we demolished the Colony Plaza. We created this overlay, and we approved the site plan with the buildings up on the corner, and this is where the Sunnies is going in up here. That's the movie theater. And so we have going on in the area, we have the Alibi Apartments going in on this piece over here. We have the new pond park under development, the wellness park over here. As part of future widening of the turnpike, the bridge in McGuire will be widened. There'll be a nice wider pedestrian crossing going over. So this area is really setting up to be a place that's impactful with a lot of opportunities for interactions, retail, and such. The specific property, one of the pieces is office, the rest of it's all commercial zone, and same thing with the land use. And in our comprehensive plan, in a mixed-use area with adjacent zonings and land uses, you can mix all that. So we'll have office opportunities, retail opportunities, and then residential opportunities in the target area. As part of the zoning overlay, we actually require that. It's showing up better on the TV. So what's in front of you, I don't like how it's showing up on this TV screen, but this is the preliminary site plan, and it's for a 300-unit multifamily, 4 stories, and plus or minus 7,500 square foot retail, 7,000, which will reside in the buildings on the north side of the extension of Old Winter Garden Road. They will construct that Old Winter Garden Road extension to a point. They will also provide a north-south, the new road, north-south road, which will run on the west side of the movie theater. And the movie theater is planning to expand up to this future road. I'll go back and show you as part of the target area. I don't have it in this plan, but we had a series of public roads, future north-south, creating blocks, and this plan is facilitating that first segment. This will run all the way up to an area that you can access the Sunnies in the future as development happens. So we have the extension of Old Winter Garden Road and a new north-south road. And so what you're seeing here is a series of, I think it's 8 buildings, eight buildings. The retail will be on the north side. So again, the Old Winter Garden Road cuts through the property. On the north side, there will be 2 buildings. We'll have retail. And let me first start off saying we've had a lot of interest in this property from multifamily users, and we've run a lot of people off. And I tried to run this applicant off initially when they came. I was like, I'm sure you do a great project, but you're not going to do what we want. And then he showed me his development, his community in Gainesville, where he owns the retail. He became a franchisee to operate one of the spaces in his retail. He knows how to make this mix work in the building. And so we looked at that. We had further conversations, and we said, we think this is the guy, this is the person that can get this done. They understand they've got to develop a road, a series of roads. They understand they've got to do stormwater and collect it for the roads and their project. And that's where we've had other people, they just want to do their apartments, they don't want to do anything else. And so, we're really excited to be working with this developer, and in the plan you're going to see here. So we have the 300 units, there's amenity center, and then this retail has an outside plaza, which will look over on McGuire Road. In the preliminary phase, we don't get far in the engineering, but the way the site lays out is from east to west, as I said. Come on, closer. We have we have loft-type apartments, 1 and 3 bedrooms in the 2 buildings, 4-story. This has the retail in the bottom floor on the south side. There's and again, this is another aspect is they're going to have units on the other side of a public road, which is going to be an arterial road. So that management's going to have to cross, that maintenance is going to have to play both sides of the road. They have a series of buildings, and I'll show you the elevations. They have dog park, amenity center, and then the pond, their stormwater retention is going to be amenitized. You see a trail around there. This is going to be an area for the public to access and be able to walk around and provide that public element. So with meeting the intent of the overlay, I'll show you the architecture. They're going to meet it architecturally. They're providing mixed use. They're building the public roads. They're not kicking and screaming and no, I can just do a driveway. And then finally, they're providing the public amenity of this stormwater park. They're checking all the boxes. They're wanting to do all this. They want to be a part of this. They understand. This is what they do. So that's nice. So the architecture and the team here, they've got a good team assembled. They got the engineer, they have the architect here if you have any questions. But the architecture of the building, the balconies will be, many of them will have these glass railings and use of lights. I'm sure the applicant can tell you I forgot the name of the facility in Gainesville. But this is a preliminary plan. And what this does is the zoning allows it, the zoning overlay, and we're showing you the commitment of maximum residential units, area of retail, how the engineering, the public road, how they're meeting the checklist within the target area 1 area. And from there, the next step would be final site plan with a development agreement that we're working on with the applicant. And some unique features. They've got the internal drive will look with a roundabout. It will look like a public road itself, but it's not. It's internal to the development. So there's a lot of elements. They're trying to go above and beyond. We are, because they are providing many functions of what we need in target area 1, just like the developer did up on the corner with the Tijuana Flats. They built the buildings up on the corner as the overlay requires. So we're giving them the ability to capture a lot of the residential development. Across the road in the target area overlay plan, we actually had a Costco at the time looking, and we've envisioned that to be a heavy retail area mixing with the movie theater and the commercial up to the north in a walkable community. This one's a little bit with the turnpike, and they have wetlands over on the they're preserving the wetlands on the very east. You can see it on the TV better, the shaded area, staying out of the wetlands. And so we're very excited to have this preliminary site plan for the Regency in front of you.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman, I do.
Okay.
Just the stormwater maintenance and plan, is that going to be managed by the city, or not
Yes.
plan, but
Right now, I'll tell you, it'll
Amenity?
probably facilitate like we did with City Center West Orange. Until
Okay.
we get into the engineering, but the way we did with City Center West Orange is they built a pond that could hold all of the public stormwater that, they built more public roads at City Center than this is. So they're gonna hold all the public water from the right-of-ways in their pond. So, but they will have the majority of it. So most likely, they will have ownership maintenance. We will have an easement. We will look at the amenitizing of the pond. Maybe we'll participate there to help bring it up. We're going to have a really nice pond park, wellness park near there, maybe tied in a little bit with lighting or something like that. But they should, at this point, they will own and maintain it until we get in the engineering. If for some reason we're going to have the bulk of the stormwater, I doubt we will, then that might be a different story.
Cool. Anybody else?
If I can.
You may.
Mr. Chair. Got a couple of questions. One of them, are we going to have any tie-in as to how far along they have to be with the retail before they can complete the residential?
Yes, good question. Just like we did with the Ocoee Village Center, this will have a, and this one's built into the building, so the retail is going to be built. So we will look at that, but we'll make sure building 1 or 2 is one of the first buildings that has the retail. Yes. So the retail will be built out. How it gets leased, we will not tie it to a lease, but
Right.
to the build-out, yes.
Okay. And that dog park, is that just for the community, or is that going to be a city dog park? And are we looking at taking over that?
It's just for the community, unless, well, I may be wrong, but I think it's going to be for their community. It's not a public
Well, I'm
dog
just
park.
thinking because those are going to be public roads it's off of, or?
The public road will be on the north side. The dog park is right, I think it's shaded
Okay.
right here.
So-
It's
All
more
right, so that's,
It's,
all
yeah.
right, so
The
they
dog
won't be able to
park
get
right
into
here.
it.
It's going to be internal to their
Okay.
site. What's going to happen is the road will stop and we'll have to do a sidewalk for right now to get you over to the pond until such time as the rest of the road can be picked up. Because they don't own both sides of this property line. They're not buying, purchasing. So when the parcel to the north develops, they will pick up the rest of the road and bring it and either curve it or do the right angle. At such time, we will have the public road closer to this amenitized pond, and then tied in there. But it'll just have a sidewalk tie-in, a little distance right now.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Have y'all done like a traffic study? Because that's a whole lot of apartments that's going to dump right into 50 and McGuire.
No traffic study because we already built in block roads within the overlay.
Okay.
They're building a section of an arterial road in front of them. So we're building an arterial road, which is going to take the traffic, and then there's a series of blocks. Blocks move internal transportation better than just plain suburban roads, and they're building the first section of that north-south block from everything they control. So they're building 2 public roads within their development. But the transportation review was done with the overlay, and we have a road network in there that's going to handle that.
Right, when was that transportation review
It was
done?
part of 2015 when we did the,
Okay.
Anybody else?
Just so I'm not, I think I may have gotten confused here, with building 1 and building 2 that's on this plan, that's separate from the property, or are you saying north of building 1 and building 2? That's separate development, separate ownership and,
north of where you see zoning C3, north of that's their development. Just north of building 1 and 2 is the movie theater.
right?
So just to the west of that is a different parcel.
Oh, okay,
They're getting from the parcel line south,
okay, I follow now. Thank you.
so.
Scott? Cool. All right, is the applicant here? Would they like to say anything? You don't have to if you don't want to. Just say your name and where you're from, please.
Good evening, Erica Hughes of VHB 225 East Robinson, Orlando, Florida. We just want to thank staff for working to get us here today. They've been really great. We're really excited to be within the city of Ocoee and developing. Myself and the team are available for any questions, and we would request your support in recommending approval.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? I'm going to open it up to public comments. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say about this? I'm going to close the public comments. We'll bring it back up to the dais. Does anybody have any additional questions? Okay, we're going to need one motion on this for the site plan for LS 2022-001.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary site plan for the Regency mixed-use development.
To recommend approval.
To recommend approval. Yes. We have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Member Kennedy for approval of the, of that, and a second by Member Forges. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good to go. Thank you very much. All right.
Will this
we
come back
have,
to us again? Since this is preliminary? Won't this, this is preliminary, so will this come back to us again at some point?
Yep. Yep. All right, next thing, we got the 429 Business Center Phase 2. This is a small-scale comprehensive planned future land use map amendment from low-density residential to light industrial, CPA 2022-002, and rezoning from single-family dwelling district R1A to light manufacturing warehousing district I1 RZ 220234. Geez, make it smaller next time. Zoning Manager Whitfield.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Commissioners, everybody in the audience. We won't repeat that long title, but it is a request for a comp plan amendment. It is small scale because it is less than 50 acres. The changes go from low-density residential to light industrial and from R1A to I1 rezoning. The property is located on the east side of Pine Street, roughly 462 feet north of Palm Drive, which is, Palm is here, the property in question is here. It's about 5.5 acres with 3 parcels. It's located within the State Road 429 Overlay District, specifically the business center area, and is subject to the business center design plan. The business center is all of this area here, but the subject property is in sub-area 3. So highlighted in this blue color is sub-area 3, and the subject property is highlighted in orange. If you can, it's hard to see because the plan itself is a little blurry, but this area 3 that's denoted with this 3 note here, it's designed or intended for larger footprint uses appropriate for the area because of its limited connectivity with the expressway on the west side. This is another look of the sub-areas and the business center character area. I tried to blow up this table to show the anticipated composition of the different types of uses that's anticipated in sub-area 1. I didn't mention earlier, but the State Road 429 special overlay area was adopted by the City Commission in July of 2017 after a series of hearings, public meetings, and things of that nature. So the intent was for sub-area A to become developed with 65% of the area being industrial, and then to a limited extent office and institutional at 25% and retail at 10%. This is an aerial of the location. The surrounding zoning districts, it's surrounded by low-density residential and R1 and light industrial on the east side of the canal. So as mentioned, in terms of the background, it's in the business center area, large footprints, mixed use. It's also inside of the Ocoee study area, which by our comprehensive plan requires a minimum of 35% open space, as well as other protection provisions as required by the state in terms of protecting the Ocoee watershed. In terms of transportation, the applicant team did provide a transportation study. It is a comprehensive plan / rezoning, so it's looking big picture. They did 3 analyses. One is base conditions, showing things as they exist now with the 3 properties just having 3 homes on it. The second scenario is a projected base condition, and that is with development of the 5.5 acres under the current LDR, future land use designation, which is up to 4 units per acre. And then they also did a projected proposed condition, which is development of the property under the light industrial future land use category that allows up to 3.0 FAR, floor area ratio. For the audience, what that means is that for every 1 acre, which is roughly 43,000 square feet of land area, they are allowed 3 times that number in terms of their square footage. So as you all are familiar with a comp plan amendment, we look at the maximum potential. So the applicant team did look at that, and under the base condition and the, I did not put a slide in here, I apologize, I should have put a slide in here, of the 3 segments that are, 4 segments of the roadway that are impacted. So basically, we're looking at segments, one segment on State Road 437, which is a Ocoee Road from State Road 438, which is West Franklin Street, to Silver Star. That's segment 1. Segment 2 is McGuire Road from Kissimmee to Franklin. And segments 3 and 4 is Plant Street or 438 from Crown Point Road to the 429, and then from the 429 extending to Ocoee. And I should have included that as a slide so that everybody can see it. I do apologize for that. But under the base condition and under the future projected conditions, under the base condition, those 3 of those segments are failing, even if the houses don't go anywhere. Under the worst-case scenario, projected proposed conditions, only 1 additional segment, which is the 4th one that I mentioned, which is the 438 Plant Street from 429 to Apopka Road, that would also be added as failing. What's interesting for me to see in the transportation study is that even if the future land use and the rezoning were to not happen, the failure would still happen in the long term, in the 5-year projection. What the traffic study didn't include was the background improvements or the future improvements that's planned with the Florida Department of Transportation's road improvements on Silver Star Road, State Road 438. In looking at the, utilities, there's capacity in our facilities to address utilities, and then connections will happen at the site plan level. But going back to transportation very quickly, staff looked at this project and this request in terms of the other projects that are in the area. So let me go back to the aerial. If you are able to see my mouse. So this is Pine Street. Pine Street dead ends right now at about here. This location is Phase 2, so the business center Phase 2. On the immediate east side of that, on the other side of the canal, is Phase 1. This was, I think, the CMEX location that did not get passed by the commission. But a little bit further north of this is the Beltway 429 project, which is a big project that's coming in, and that developer is working with staff to, let me see if I have a better location. It's not on there, but it's a little bit further north. They're working with city staff to build a roadway, an east-west connection from Ocoee Road to Pine, and then Pine will continue from where it is now to meet up with that. So through projects coming into the area, consistent with the overlay district, we are looking at creating connections to help move traffic, both regular passenger traffic as well as truck traffic. Let's see. So the Development Review Committee met on Tuesday, April 5th, to review the comp plan amendment and rezoning. Following discussions, they voted unanimously to recommend approval with no conditions. The understanding, of course, with every other project, when the project comes in for site plan review, that's when we look at the details, the engineering of the site. We will more than likely be requiring a traffic operations analysis as opposed to a capacity analysis, which was done for the project at this level. But when we go into site plan review, that's when we will look at the engineering details and the operations of the roadways that are impacted by the project. So with that, staff is recommending that the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as the LPA, recommend approval of the small-scale comp plan amendment to go from low-density residential to light industrial, and then a rezoning from R1A, single-family residential district, to I1, light manufacturing and warehousing. For the three properties at 701, 707, and 711 Pine Street. Just looking at some preliminary information, the development team is not looking to build anywhere close to the maximum that would be allowed. So I think the number that I saw was about 120 out of the 700,000 that they would be allowed to have if the comp plan amendment were to move forward. And Mr. Selby Weeks is here to represent the applicant team, and staff is also available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, I do. I wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. On the parcel to the east, first of all, is that the same owner developer? The parcel just to the east?
Yes,
Okay, and that parcel did not pass council, correct?
that was for the CMEX. No, CMEX did not pass. It's already a light industrial, so they didn't have to do a comp plan amendment. for
Okay,
the
I just
zoning.
wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. I think that answers my question.
Anybody else?
I heard traffic study. When was that one completed? Do y'all know?
It was submitted as part of this application.
Yeah, like
So-
when was it, not kind of submitted, but when was it, when was the test, or when did they do the study?
They typically don't do counts at this level. They just look at the city's 2019, which is the latest update that we have from the concurrency management system database, and use the trips plus the vested trips from that, and then they added a 2% growth factor for the 5-year
Okay.
time period.
Yeah, the reason I've asked that twice now is I'm seeing studies pop up that were done like during COVID when there was no traffic, and
Yeah, no, so this one, there are some traffic studies where the engineering team goes out and conducts counts. There are some traffic studies where they only look at the existing traffic volumes, annual average daily traffic volumes. They compare the adopted level of service, the number of lanes on the road that the road has, and the design capacity. And then they look at what the current volumes are for that base year, plus the vested trips, which is all the projects or comp plan amendments that have been approved to date, and then they add a growth factor.
thank you.
What type of properties that are located to the south of this parcel, subject parcel?
So
The houses?
there are, when I looked at the property appraisers, if you can see it, there's a small skinny little strip between immediately south of the site, and then just south of that, to me it looked like maybe 20-foot wide. Just south of that is a residential home, and then to the east side is vacant, but it's also residential. I believe these two lots are in the county. One of the two is in the county. And then on this side is a small subdivision with 6 or 7 homes. This one is also a single-family home. Right now, the area is low-density residential, which, makes sense with the development that's there now. Based on the current LDR at up to 4 units per acre, the 5 units can have about 23 single-family homes. With traffic growth and the background growth, the 2% that the traffic engineer did, it would still show that the roads would be failing even with a subdivision of 22 homes.
Any idea if the owner plans to combine the two parcels for a bigger project and
Which,
snacks?
this one and this one?
Correct.
We have a pre-application with the development team scheduled for next week where it's going to be the business center. Phase 1 is on the east side, Phase 2 is on the west side, and they're going to be doing a connection over the canal.
So they will combine the two parcels once we,
I don't know if they'll
If we
combine
approve
the parcels together, but it looked to me, looking at the concept plan for the pre-app for next week, it looks like it'll be a cohesive development. They won't be
do
developed
we have
separately.
anything like that on PDF we can see? I mean, it's not,
We're not there yet.
we're not there yet, but just curious.
We have a concept, did not upload it to the shared drive, but we do have a concept for the pre-app next week.
All right. Anybody else?
I just have one question on that house to the south. Do they, because I'm trying to figure out, I see how the one to the west of that gets out onto Pine Street, but the one to the east below that, do they have a right-of-way that's going to be interfered with or anything for this?
This is, if I'm able to zoom in, it's from, if you're able to follow my arrow, from here to about right here is just probably a 20-foot private
It's a
property.
dirt driveway.
So it's probably a shared driveway.
All those are down to that dead end.
Mhm.
Okay, so then, but it isn't going to affect that driveway then, what they're doing?
No, it's outside of that property, outside of that driveway.
Because I'm just thinking that the piece to the southeast, I guess, corner, it
Right
looks like that's gonna
Here.
be the one that'll have the most.
Right here.
Yeah, that piece there looks like it's gonna have the most problem as far as getting out.
Right, so when the development comes in for site planning, we'll look at the buffering requirements that's in the comp plan, and things like that. The preliminary concept plan shows the building more internal to this subject property and the one to the east, with parking and a drive aisle more to the south. But again, it's just at the pre-app stage, so it could evolve as we look at the site plan.
Anybody else? Yes.
I don't know whether you misspoke or I'm confused. I'm sure I'm confused. When Member Williams asked you about the property to the east,
This one?
yeah, you said that was the CMEX site.
It was a
It
failed
was.
CMAX.
It was failed.
But the paperwork says it's the Progress Commerce Park. Is that correct?
No. The Progress Commerce is way at the top where I was making reference to the connections to Pine. Once Pine gets connected to northward,
So
extended
the
north.
packet says the site is adjacent to the 429 Business Center phase, formerly known as Progress Commerce Park.
It's phase one. A lot of the projects in this city, I don't know why, have very similar names. So the Progress Commerce was Progress Commerce, then it became the 429 Beltway, and then before that it was something else. This site is the 429 Business Center, phase two. The 429 Business Center phase one is the site where the CMEX site failed.
Progress Commerce Park is farther north.
Yes, it's further north.
Still Blueberry Field.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay. And then secondly, another source of confusion for me, when I read through the packet, it seemed like you were just doing cleanup where the future land use map may be or getting consistency between that and the zoning. But then, and it's confusing to me, but until you get to the special overlays, the last paragraph, then you mention the applicant is requesting this. Did an applicant come to you and simply ask for a modification to the future land use plan?
It was an application that we received, right?
Yes, yes.
But
So-
without
so-
any other application to consider, they just
Right.
asked for that?
Well, yes, it's a voluntary request. When we did the business center overlay,
Right.
we did not do another step and amend all the land uses and zonings in the area. It's a big, expensive process. So it's on a parcel by parcel basis. The property is under contract, and the east side is I-1, and so they're coming in voluntarily asking to amend the land use amendment and rezoning to match the other property. So they're coming to us, yes, so that's why,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I do want to state just the property owner, under another permit we worked with, the existing property owner, he did dedicate to the city enough right-of-way to make a full 50-foot, his half of a 50-foot right-of-way. So the property owner, even though he's under contract to sell, we do have in front of this parcel, the parcel highlighted and the parcel on the west side, we do have 50-foot for a future right-of-way. Just want to say that the applicant, the current property owner did that, deeded it, fee simple, for free to the city for the future of this. Thank you.
Mike, I have a quick question for you while you're there. Does this affect some sort of thresholds? Like, I remember when we were talking about the Blueberry Field, it was something about trips would create some sort of threshold that would go to the next level or something to make some sort of road improvements or?
Well, I don't recall how, under that context, but let me tell you what's going on in the area, what we're doing. We are presently under construction. So part of the business center character area requires these east-west roads with a future connection of Pine Street. Pine Street is physically hard surface to about here. It's not saying it's not an approved right-of-way. It's not full 50-foot width all the way. As part of this, this east-west connection is going to be provided by the Phase 1 and Phase 2. The developer will be providing an east-west, just as the commercial beltway progress. So we're going to have two east-west connections for a future Pine Street. I've engaged a consultant to come up with a preliminary design of Pine. We know that it will, we know where it hits Palm, and we know where Progress Commercial Beltway is going to terminate with the other east-west road. And in that layout, you can kind of see it has this jog. But, so presently, we are realigning this entrance point on Palm Drive, moving that entrance away from the intersection of Silver Star, which is part of the background issues out there. That is design engineered, constructed. We're just waiting on CenturyLink to move, AT&T to move a line off the pole, and that will be completed. The applicant will be constructing at their cost a east-west road through here. Now, we're going to have to, unless other developments, things are really heating up out there, but Pine Street's not intended to be a business vehicle access for the time being. So we'll have to limit, but they will be constructing that first east-west road. Progress Beltway will construct an east-west road, and then we've got to work on getting Pine Street. That will help alleviate trips on Ocoee Apopka, combined with the future extension of Worst Road, combined with the work that's being done partially right now as part of the interchange with the CFX on Franklin Street, but that future Silver Star Road work, which is designed and on the funding list, will help that issue. So what we do is, as part of the front segment, when you see this, part of the negotiation will be, as part of meeting the intent of the overlay, you can have some industrial flex on the front. We really geared it towards from the ditch to the 429, but you've got to meet some parameters of our overlay, and that's going to be that east-west road at their cost, which they're going to do. The developers have developed the park at 429 on the west side.
Yeah.
And so, meeting a threshold,
Or a trigger.
it's
You
sort
said
of
something, but I
yeah,
can't remember.
it's sort of, they're meeting what the overlay wants with use in the road.
Yeah.
And they will also be pioneering, in a sense, utilities going up. The utilities started going up at Vermeer, which doesn't show up on this aerial. They will connect not only the sewer, there's water going on Ocoee Apopka. They will not only connect sewer on this side, but they will also put it on Pine Street.
Yeah.
One project we are currently working on, getting land for right-of-way is tough. We're trying to get easements so we can run sewer. There's already a water line in Pine Street to get sewer going now, and then at some point it'll just be within the right-of-way. We're actively working on that right now.
Cool, thank you. Is the applicant here? Would they like to say anything? Come on up if you're fine, then. Okay. Anybody, I'll open it up to the public comments. Anybody wants to make a comment? Step on up, sir. I'll take you'll come right up here. If you haven't filled a form out, when you're done, if you'll fill a form out in the back, just say your name and your address.
John Palmer, 750 Pine Street, right across from where the road's going to come in. My wife and I purchased the property back in, I think, 2017, maybe just prior to. We had purchased it with about 80 acres, donated 1 acre to the city.
He also
For-
donated right-of-way as
Yes,
part of
for
another
free.
project for free. So-
Okay.
So we have both sides.
And we petitioned for a lot split, which we were granted. During that time, we were never told about the current study and process of the 429 overlay. No one mentioned a thing to us, and it was in process. Now, what I feel bad about is a couple years ago, we had come here when they mentioned the 429 overlay, and we talked about, we just spent our life savings on building a house in a residential area. And one of the people here, don't know who it was, can't remember, said, oh, we're always going to need residential, always going to need it. But I feel like we're getting squeezed out and surrounded by commercial stuff. And it's, I don't know what the future holds, if we just need to get out because we have no recourse. I don't know if anything I have to say will change anything. We love Ocoee. We've been here for many years. We lived in Ocoee prior to coming here. We lived for 15 years in another place. But this is just, it's kind of overwhelming for us to see this happen, because right across the street, we're going to have warehouses and storage in a residential area. So I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, but I feel a little bit misled and uninformed.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? All right, we're going to close the public hearing, bring it back up to the dais. Anybody else have any other questions?
Well, I gotta say, I appreciate Mike telling us what the owner's gonna do as far as connecting a road from the east to the west of both of the properties. That, again, my question was somewhat premature with regards to what was gonna happen here, but that was a concern. Because I'm thinking the owner's gonna combine two properties and adding stress on Ocoee Popco Road in terms of traffic. So I'm glad you made the explanation that there will be an east-west road going from Pines, to connect Pines to Ocoee Popco Road. So thank you for sharing that.
Okay. All right, so, yeah?
Ask just one more question. So how do we, I'm not sure, do you have a response to the need of those who are residential in that area, and how we are able to, if in the plans it is to protect or enhance their properties, how do we respond to these residential properties?
All plans are vision plans, and they are, because we did not purposely go out there and work with homeowners to change all the land uses, it's understood that it could take 20 years. And so the bulk of the land is agriculture.
Yep.
It's Orange County agriculture. Our comprehensive plan doesn't have an agricultural land use. It, in the 20-year plan, got rid of agriculture. So we don't have an A1, we don't give properties A1 zonings. We've maybe had a couple since I've been here. So in our land use, it's LDR. If you look under the counties, the properties that are in the county have probably a citrus rural or something like that land use. So, but I was a part of working with Mr. Palmer, and I know I think it was right at the lot split was around the same time as the study was kicking off, and we did obtain the half of the 50-foot right-of-way, knowing that Pine Street thinking that Pine Street needed to go north and be a real road in the future.
Great, thanks.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yes.
Mike, the area that he's discussing, is it within the business character overlay is, I mean, specifically, let's just ask the question, is it part of the business character overlay to
Yeah.
eventually convert that residential also to industrial?
The vision and the encouragement is everything west of Ocoee Popka Road and 429 becomes a commercial center. This being Ocoee Popka Road, his parcel's over here.
So it is
Yes,
in
everything's
the
in there.
plan, not just that so he asked a question, which was a specific question, which is it part of the plan that our residential area will look across the street at warehouses?
Yes.
And the answer is
Yes.
no, it's part of our vision that eventually that will also be warehouses.
It's part of our vision, but it's also part of a zoning overlay. So,
Okay, well, I thought you deserved an answer to your question.
And of course, you know, whatever our decision is tonight, we're just making a recommendation, and then there's always the city council that you have recourse to go with as that as well. So if there are no more questions, we're gonna need two motions for approval or denial, but if so, we need a motion for the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning CPA 2022-002.
Mr. Chair, I make a recommendation to approve CPA -2022-002.
Thank you very much. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve by Member Forges and a second by Member Williams. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Yes.
Okay, so it carries 3-2. Do I need a count on that, or are we good?
Member Mellon opposed, and who else?
Kennedy,
Okay, thank you.
3-2. All right, so that passes. So the second one, we need a motion for approval for the rezoning RZ 220234.
I'll again make a motion for recommendation approval for RZ-22-0234.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it again.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Member Forges and a second by Member Williams. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
3-2 as well. All right, thank you very much. Good luck. Okay, next one is Land Development Code Amendment for Airbnb. This is the LDC amendment to Article 2, Section 2. This is going to be LDC amendment to Article 2, Section 2 through 4, definitions in Article 5, Section 515, specific use development standards. It's going to be Zoning Manager Whitfield.
Thank you. So the item before the Planning and Zoning Commission this evening is whether or not to amend the Land Development Code relative to Article 2, Section 2-4, which is the definitions section, and Article 5, Section...
Pause a moment, please.
Yes.
It's hard to hear you on a normal
Yeah,
basis,
I can barely hear.
like a mouse.
Yeah, can we swap the mics, because that one is louder?
No, you're good. Just do your thing. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll bring it a little closer. We actually tested this earlier. Okay. Yeah, yes. Okay, we'll just restart.
Maybe you should yell at us. Just kidding.
I have a yelling voice. I also have a mom
I have no
voice.
doubt.
There you go.
That gets really loud.
Absolutely.
Okay, so again, the issue is whether or not the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as a local planning agency, should you guys recommend approval for amendments to Article 2, Section 2-4, which is the definition section, and Article 5, Section 5-15, which is the specific uses standard section, specifically with respect to regulating tourist homes to ensure public safety. So I wanted to take this opportunity to go over the state legislation. Prior to 2010, there were no preemptions from the state in terms of what a local government can and cannot do for vacation homes. In 2011, the first House bill was adopted, which had some regulations specific to the type of occupancy and things like that. And then in 2014, the preemption was amended again to read as it reads now, which is basically saying that local governments cannot prohibit short-term rentals, vacation rentals, things of that nature. And we cannot regulate the duration or the frequency. So the duration, how long a unit can be rented out for, or how frequently the units can be rented out for, if that local government did not have codes in place prior to 2011. Based on staff research, we did find that the city has some regulations in place. In the next couple of slides, we'll call those out. In Chapter 119 of the Code of Ordinances, which is our taxing code, there is a tax for public lodging of rentals of 5 rooms or fewer. In the Land Development Code, in Section 2-4, we currently have a definition for tourist homes, which the exact definition is in the draft ordinance. We also have parking regulations specific for tourist homes. We also have prohibitions on vacation rentals and tourist homes if the site is a condominium, which by all intents and purposes is a multifamily development, but the condo unit itself is fee simple ownership. Our zoning districts also allow for accessory dwelling units to be located in residential zoning districts as long as they meet the requirements of the principal use, which is a single-family residential home. As long as those standards are met, then we do have provisions that allow for accessory units, whether they are for use of the property owner or to be rented out or what have you. The city doesn't regulate renting versus ownership. So with that in mind, the city has been experiencing a greater increase in interest from our local residents as well as residents from out of city and out of state wanting to purchase homes here for the purpose of having a vacation home or short-term rentals. There are a number of vacation rentals and tourist homes in the city now. Looking at the inventory, they range from rooms, 1 room in a house, multiple rooms in a house, an entire house, boat houses, boat docks, and things of that nature. And so some of the concerns that we've heard from residents is, safety is one, especially in those established subdivisions where you have children running and playing, noise, lighting, trash, things like that. So because we have these provisions in place, as well as other provisions in the Code of Ordinance, we felt that it was time to better solidify the codes that we have in order to protect the public interest, health and welfare. So as an example, we have a code in the Code of Ordinances that's specific to noise, and one is specific to solid waste and things like that. So the recommendations that staff has in the ordinance calls out the requirement to continue to be compliant with the expectations of the other homes in the residential districts. Specifically, the code changes to Article 2 is to clarify that the tourist homes includes any accommodation that provides sleeping and bathing accommodations for persons. The current definition of tourist home makes a reference to transient guests, but we don't have a definition for it. So staff pulled the definition from the Florida statutes, and we're recommending that that be added. And then people may not refer to or know to ask us about tourist homes, which is what our code refers to. So our recommendation is to add vacation short-term rentals in the definition with a reference back to tourist home. So if someone is doing a Google search in Muni Code, they can find our codes that way. In terms of the changes to Article 5, Section 5-15, 15C is a new section that we're proposing specifically for tourist homes. This is, again, a summary of what's in the draft ordinance that's currently being reviewed by the city attorney's office. One is to have a no-cost application for a tourist home local business tax receipt. there's no cost for our local business tax receipt for someone who wants to do a home-based business. They pay the tax, but there's no application fee. Same thing for this application, they would still pay the tax, which has been established for a very long time, but just not the application fee. Part of the application requires them to clarify how they're going to park their residents or their renters. They will also be asked to identify a responsible party who will be available to respond to emergencies 24/7. The Florida statutes also continues to grant cities and counties the ability to conduct building and fire safety. So we're adding that into the affidavit that they would have to sign that says they acknowledge that when they operate this business, they have to make themselves available for inspection if the fire division or the building division has a concern. Let's see. So that is basically the summary of the draft ordinance. Again, it is under review by the city attorney's office. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the changes to section 2-4 to add the definitions and to 5-15 to create a new section C to better regulate tourist homes for the purposes of public safety.
Great, thanks.
You're
I have a question. When it talks about the fire and safety doing inspections, is that on demand, or is there,
Yes, the way the application and the affidavit, we're still drafting that. They would have to be, the operator or the responsible party would have to be able to allow an inspection within 48 hours.
okay, not on demand, so within 48 hours, great. Okay.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for staff?
Yes. When, let's say, how would, if I am a person who's renting, would I have any recourse with the city if I find that the property is substandard when I arrive?
There are two separate sections, and Robin can correct me if I'm misspeaking. There's Florida statutes that deal with rentals, tenant-landlord relationship type statutes. This is a different section. This is in the public lodging establishments, so 509 versus 8-something, which is the tenant-landlord.
Right, but I'm still asking the question. Would not a tenant, but a renter or a
Vacationer.
Vacationer, I'm trying to think of the word here, transient guest. Would a transient guest have any recourse with the city? Could they call the building department and say, you know what, I showed up and this is not a safe place for me to be, or it's not being maintained properly?
My response to that would be, their first recourse ought to be to call whoever they signed up with. If it's just an aesthetics, if it's dirty, if it's, whatever, if it's issues related to the building code, and there is a building code violation or fire safety, fire prevention code violation, they could call the city and ask for some help or ask for some recourse. But ideally, they should call their responsible party first and have the responsible party fix that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Yeah, if I can?
You may.
Sure. I just have a question, and it's probably, I'm just not reading it right, but the section where it says a dwelling, building, or structure in which sleeping and bathing accommodations is not more than 4 rooms. So if I'm renting my house and I've got a 4-bedroom house, I've also got a living room, bathroom, so do I not fall under this then?
If you're renting the house, if you have like a big house that has 5-6 bedrooms, their existing code that's been in place since I believe 1999 says that you could only utilize 4 of those rooms for a tourist home or tourist rental. This is for, like, if someone wanted to they have a four-bedroom house and they're the owner operator and they live there, one room could be their own, then that means they could rent out the other three. If you have, we're also asking them to show in the draft application, to show us a floor plan to clearly show which of the rooms that they're going to be using for this purpose.
Okay, and maybe it's because I look at it as an A, and B, which is one of the bed and bath type. If I rent out my house and I say, okay, look, I'm going on vacation in July, so I'm gonna rent out my home. So I'm renting out my whole house, I'm not renting out just the bedrooms.
Are you talking about renting it out for short-term rental purposes
Well,
or
yeah,
renting it out?
Basically, I'm a tourist home for that month of July while I'm gone, while I rent it out, and, you know, someone's in that house. So I've gone out to, you know, Verbo or one of the others and said, hey, listen, I'll rent my house for the month of July. Anybody wants to be in Ocoee so they can go to Disney World for, you know, for the month of July, I'm not gonna be there. You're more than welcome.
To do that, you would have to come to the city and get pay the local business tax and get the certificate.
I know I have to pay that, but what I'm saying, do I have a problem with that because now I have a 7-room house of which
You
4
can only say you
bedrooms?
can rent up to 4 rooms, right?
You could only rent up to 4 rooms, so if your neighbor were to complain because you've got, 10 people in a
I'm
4 or
not
7
even so worried
bedroom.
about 10 people, I'm worried about another, I get a family in there, you know. So my
You're just-
in-laws from New York come down, they've got 3 kids and, you know,
Your selling description can't say it's 7 bedrooms, it has to say it's 4
Well-
bedrooms.
well, yeah, and I guess what I'm asking is, does this just says 4 rooms, it doesn't say 4
It's
bedrooms?
intended to stop it, because what's happening is, in the neighborhoods that have the big 2-story square homes with 5 and 6 bedrooms, every other day, there's 20 new people there.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we kept that in there to stop that. You can't, if you're gonna rent more than 4 rooms, goes into parking, it goes into, look at it first like we are lucky.
Yeah.
We're lucky that we had a tourist home definition in provisions, because if we didn't, it would be wild, wild west on Airbnb
Yeah.
in Ocoee. So the intent is to kind of, as much as we can, restrict them by policy and procedure, because some of them are nice. The boathouse on the lake is rented, and if you think that place is safe, smoke a cigar and drop the ashes on that wood plank.
I'm just
But
looking
it
at,
is intended, yes, to stop those big 8, because people will wall up bedrooms and Airbnb each room out, so it is intended to stop that.
Okay.
Is
But
it
I-
gonna be, in practicality, we're not gonna get on there, every website each week and see if there's, and then code enforce them, but it does provide us, if we have an issue, you showed that.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, I could see me renting my house out for a month to somebody from out of state with their 3 kids and,
Yeah.
4-bedroom house, I got, one for each of the kids and one for the
Yep.
adults. Well, hey, this is great, and I've got a living room, kitchen, and,
Well, it's not on, it's
family
not on
room. So
all the
all of a
rooms in
sudden,
the
I've got
house.
7 rooms in the building.
It's not on all the rooms in the
Only
house.
bedrooms, right?
Yes.
But that's
Well,
the thing, though, I think that's where Commissioner
It's
is coming
bed-
from.
yeah.
It says rooms.
Yeah, it
because
doesn't say
Right.
A
bedrooms, it says
3-bedroom
rooms.
house can have 8 rooms.
Yes.
Well, the definition will be accommodation and sleeping. I mean, we could go into the details in the application, because like Mike mentioned, it's, the parking ratio, for example, that's in the code now is 1 parking space per person, per room.
Yeah,
plus the-
I don't think you're getting my
I think you're
question.
missing the second part, is it says they can't do it to a transient guest,
Yeah, but-
which
No,
is a
he's
person
talking
that
strictly-
doesn't
no,
have,
he's talking
you can
strictly
still
rooms.
sign a residential lease. You can't rent to a transient guest.
No,
As
no,
a
the
property
guest
owner,
is a
you can
guest
still lease
occupying
your
my
home,
tourist
your
home.
whole home.
So if I'm renting to a family from New York who's coming down here for the month of July so they can go to Disney, and they've got a husband, wife, and 3 children, I'm renting my house for 1 month. I've got more than 4 rooms. What I'm thinking. what I'm
bedrooms. It's
seeing that-
renting
what
out
I'm thinking
bedrooms.
You're not
It's not
catching-
rooms. When you look at a rental, you look at bedrooms, how many beds?
But this says 4 rooms, and that's where my question is.
He does have a point in that
It's
because
the-
appraisers look at rooms. That is, dining room, living room,
Sleeping.
family room, sleeping room, so
Yeah, but
maybe
you don't-
it should specifically say bedrooms. That's what he's
Sleeping
getting-
accommodations is what
Correct,
it
that's what he's
says.
getting
but
at,
okay.
correct, because a
Yes.
3-bedroom house can have 7 rooms. If you have 4 more dining, 4 more living,
Yeah,
family room.
yeah, study
So
and all
that's
that,
what,
yes.
that's what
Yeah, so
the
that,
commissioner is
that's
saying
sort of
is
where
there.
I guess
Yes.
I'm going with it. I know it
So
says
when
it
you
was
say 5
sleeping.
rooms,
You can have 5 rooms if you live in the house. If you do not, you can only have 4 bed. You can only accommodate 4 bedrends
correct.
Yeah.
So
per guest. is the-
Sleeping, yeah, it says sleeping accommodations.
Or sleeping accommodations.
All right. And then I guess the only other question I have is with that crazy law that the state passed last year, that says you can have businesses in your home, is that in any way going to affect us being able to oversee this?
That's why we're doing this.
We chose to not put this under the home-based business provision because Florida statutes requires the operator to reside at the residence. So there are tourist home operators who don't reside in the city of Ocoee. So if we
Okay.
tried to place it under there, then we would essentially be violating the statutes.
Okay. I just want, yeah, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just one last
Yes.
question under, oh, I'm sorry. Would you-
You're first.
Under, section 2, section II, which is also section 2, regarding the responding in 24 hours, is that a verbal response in 24 hours? And I'm not one for over-regulating anything, but I'm just concerned here that that may get oh, we heard your response, thank you very much, and then they've satisfied it.
I think that will be worked out in the weeds as we look at the affidavit
At the
and the
application.
application.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the toughest part because initially Anach wanted the person to reside or be within 10-minute drive. And we're like, well, how do you code, you're in this part of the city, but,
Yep.
you can't get there in 10 minutes or you live right on the edge. So we've
I-
reworded this, but we wanted to provide, like we have for the foreclosed home registry at the police department. You got to have a responsible party that we can talk to and get things worked out. And,
Yeah.
and we've been successful. We have a number of Airbnbs and VRBOs in the city, and they operate fine. There's a couple that people are just tired of having transient guests and in their neighborhood, and we can't stop that, but we can provide something, and that's what we're trying to do. But good question. That may be one we've got to work at. We've looked at different scenarios, and 24 hours is the most realistic.
Okay.
It may also, too, depend on the nature of it, like if you have a busted pipe and nobody's there, because that unit may be vacant at that time, that person would need to respond more quickly. Or if it's just something minor, like, hey, the lights are out, or the lights are on, whatever it is, I think we have to be a little bit.
Gentlemen? Scott, you can go first.
I like your answer, and I agree that the response should be reciprocal to the concern, and I think that's fine, appropriate. I have a question about the registry where it says there will be a responsible party name. Will that be public information? Who will that be available to at the city?
It'll stay, anything that's submitted to the city is public information. So if, for example, if I could lay out an example, if someone were to operate one and there's an issue, and the neighbor wants to know if they got a certificate to operate, they can call, we would have it just like a local business tax. We could look it up through the LBT and check their certificate. If, it also says that if they were issued one and they're doing things in violation, like they are allowing their guests to leave trash all over the place, or operate loud music, which are things that are uncustomary to a single-family home for that community, we have the ability at the director's discretion to revoke their certificate. So these are the things, like the penalties are things that we still need to be worked out. Like if you are a repeat offender, you're supposed to only lease your 4 rooms, but you've got a shed in the back and you put in a bathroom, and now you got, a lot going on, that's what we're essentially trying to avoid.
I think that's great, and I think you're on it. Those are my concerns. I deal with this a lot, and I think that's what homeowners nearby to these places want, is they want to be able to contact the person responsible themselves, not create extra work for you or for me. And that was my second question, was where you talk about additional standards for noise and littering and waste disposal.
Yeah,
And
so-
the penalty is you can lose your license or your certificate. Once that happens, if someone continues, because as former Commissioner Keller said, there's the legislation that says someone can run a business. Once they lose their certificate to operate that, what do you do then? Can you get a court injunction?
that would
banning
probably be a
operation?
code
What is
enforcement.
is that a penalty with teeth? Would code enforcement or the police enforce that? How would that happen?
And Mike will jump in, but
Yeah, it would be a code enforcement initially until we figure out. It's, yeah.
yeah, because once this is codified, it'll be enforceable by our code enforcement division.
Because I have that now in my neighborhood, they're not allowed.
By your
Because
HOA.
they're commercial short-term rentals, and we don't allow that. But there's no one you can call to have somebody stop it. And people say, well, call your HOA, and I'm like, what do you want me to do, go over there and rip them out of the house? So this is important, people want this, and it needs to be heavily regulated. And I appreciate this, thank you, good job.
Jake?
All right, my question is in section 309, it says, blah, 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 intention of the parties of the occupancy will be temporary. Where is temporary defined?
So Florida statutes basically says there's transient lodging, which is no more than 30 days. And it's a certain number of periods or months in the calendar year. And then there's public lodging, which has a minimum of 30 days for longer durations, like the short-term, month-to-month leases. So we can't, by statutes, define the length of the duration of the rental, but the Florida statutes does, and it speaks to 30 days.
Oh, okay, then my,
If we did like a place like Sarasota, Naples, they had provisions that only allowed 30-day or plus rentals, those can still be enforced.
right.
We didn't have that. Luckily, we had something, but good question.
Gotcha. And then my next question is, and maybe I'm so confused over Commissioner Joel's question, but like on 308, we're talking about no more than 4 rooms. The way I read it is you can't have 4 different paying customers rent. It's not a hotel, it's an Airbnb. So I guess, is there anything in here that I'm missing that kind of differentiates the two? So, I have a 4-bedroom house. I'm going to go rent out 3 of my rooms to 3 different paying customers. I'm not talking about one group with 8 people. I'm talking about 3 groups with 4 people, 4 people apiece.
I don't think that when I read the statutes, it doesn't speak to that. It doesn't speak to who is renting, because you could have one person renting or booking and then have their buddies staying there.
Right, but so one, that's like one customer.
I don't think it's, in reading the legislation, and I have it here if you'd like for me to read it verbatim.
No, thank
But
you.
we didn't provide a provision limiting.
Right, we don't have a provision limiting it.
Yeah.
Was that by design? I mean, I don't want my next door neighbor to have a hotel next door and is hiding it as an Airbnb.
Right, yeah.
Well, hotels, I guess, if I'm looking at the statutes, if it's long-term, there's transient and non-transient definitions in the statutes. Like I said, the only reference that I was able to find was transient means no more than 30 days consecutively, and non-transient public lodging establishments are a minimum of 30 days stay.
But what he's saying is,
Yeah, I think I'm
we don't have
confusing
anything
it.
that says, I have a
Yeah.
5-bedroom house, I live in it, and I'm gonna do 4 separate Airbnb
Little
rental
things.
opportunities.
Yeah,
we don't
I
have
mean,
that
that,
in
I think
place right
that
now.
should,
So
I
maybe
mean, I
we
think
need
that's
to look
fairly
at that.
important.
Yeah, we're considering the whole house, going to a nice family, going to
Yeah, I mean,
Disney.
yeah, you'll have
But you may get someone that rents out 4 bedrooms as separate Airbnb, unit
And
A,
each
B,
one.
C, and D, and that's different. So I
Right,
see,
I
let's
think
look at
there
that.
should be a
Yeah,
definition
They put
or-
locks on the doors, so each person has their own code to their own room, and it's.
If my friends go out, there's 20 of us, we're gonna rent your entire house. You know,
Somebody may.
I don't
But
want
then,
4
don't you-
bedrooms, 20 in this one, 20 in this one, 20 in this one, 20 in with 4 different customers, you know, so to speak, you know, so
it's a
then
good
make it a hotel.
Well, at the end of the day, why does it matter, right? 4 is 4, no matter what you look at it.
Well, if it's my next door neighbor and they're treating it as a hotel,
still
that's a
have
huge
4
problem.
He can still do 4 rooms, whether he sells it to 4
Correct.
people or 4.
Yeah.
But this
what
works
we
in
can say
concert. If you're putting locks on the interior doors and you're renting it that way, then you become subject to the hotel tax,
Right.
et cetera.
Only
That's the
if it's
purpose
over
of this,
30
to
days.
force them into a commercial venture, is it not?
Well, they do, as part of Airbnb and VRBO, they do pay the tax already.
They're supposed to, but many of them do not.
Well, okay, the one we had, the first initial, they provided me, the Airbnb pays the tax for them. And I talked to the Orange County tax collector. They said, yes, we receive bed tax for that address.
Yeah, but if they start putting the individual locks on, and so the responsibility requirement, a hotel is required to have that person present on site. It's another threshold that you
Part
reach
of the rental,
once you
yeah.
start doing that.
Right. We gotta look at that. We did not
Right.
we don't have any provisions to stop this through that scenario from happening.
I just see it as a loophole that can easily
We
be,
need to look to see if we can stop it. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, obviously you can't have a hotel in a neighborhood because, I mean, it's not zoned for it, but you can in Airbnb, but there is a distinct difference between an Airbnb, which would be like a, you know, a short-term temporary rental as opposed to renting out each unit and treating it as a short-term apartment.
Right, okay.
All right, I'm gonna bring it back up here. Let's get this thing, anybody here, the public want to talk about it? We're gonna close the public comments. What? You have another question?
Oh, no, I'm,
He's protecting the public.
Okay. All right, we need one motion for this for approval. This is for the Land Development Code Amendment for Airbnb. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a separate motion, basically shelf this until they find out a little bit more information on the hotel versus Airbnb and how it would relate to this new amendment.
Okay.
The, breaking out each room as its own type of a distinct rental.
What?
Yeah, but
Breaking out each room as a distinct rental.
Yes.
That is,
he wants to shelf this all
I
together.
well, I mean, if we can find I mean, like I said, I don't want to break out each room as a separate rental. I mean, you rent the whole house or rent a couple rooms, you don't have 5 or 6 different customers with, you know, separate paying customers and, you know, renting out each bedroom.
We have a motion to table this.
Can I comment on that before we?
I have a motion right now, so if you want to, just let's see if we get a second first, and then we can have comments.
I'll second the motion, so you.
Okay, we have a motion to table and a second. Do we have any questions, Mr. Forges?
let me ask about table. Is this table or continue to a date certain, so we don't have to re-advertise?
Continue until more information upon this is brought forward.
Date certain to the,
The
May,
next,
Next
to the
meeting.
May, yeah, that way we don't have to
A continuance,
re-advertise. Yes, okay.
I just wanted the panel to consider this with regards to every room has a lock on it, this, that, the other. The homeowner does not have to rent all 3 bedrooms to one family. So if they so choose to rent room at a time, they can have 3 locks on the door. It is extremely difficult to police that, to know whether or not at any given time, all 3 rooms are rented to 3 different people, because if my master bedroom is where I am, I have a lock on there. And the 3 rooms that I rent at any given time, I can put a lock on each one of them. So if we're looking at this as how many locks the owner has on the doors, I think we should reconsider
My
what
issue
is that we're searching.
is not the locks, it's how many paying customers or billable
What
customers.
does
are
that
in
matter, though?
It
there. It does, it's a
Four
hotel,
rooms.
there's a difference between a hotel and an Airbnb. They're two
It's having
distinct
multiple
different things.
people in there at the same time. And the way this happens, as Mike said, is it happens with a different complaint. So it starts with My neighbor has 20 cars.
But no matter if
What,
it's
and you
what,
call
that
code
still beats the
enforcement, and they
statute.
go in and they look to see
So
if
whether if there's
there's
4
deadbolts on
locks
the
or no
bedroom
locks,
doors.
if
Are
they have 20 cars, they're in violation.
Well, I guess
Not necessarily.
I guess the question is, what's the difference
One
between
car
a
per-
No.
bed and breakfast and an Airbnb?
One's a hotel and one's an Airbnb. They're
Right,
totally
but-
different,
yeah,
they're
but see,
regulated
to
differently.
me, if I'm renting out each room individually,
Then you're
I've
a
now
hotel.
become a bed and breakfast. I'm no longer an Airbnb. And that.
Exactly.
I don't know what it is legally. I mean, I know
That's-
where I see it, I don't know where the court sees it. And so that's maybe more of a question for you, Robin, than we can answer up here. But I
Well-
look at what Jason's talking about as being literally a bed and breakfast as opposed to an A&B rental.
Well,
I
let me
just feel it's a
let me
loophole.
Let me state this. This is not, we're not held under the gun to adopt an ordinance or we lose. The good thing is we had something. So this is a purpose of bringing it to you guys, because we're in our office, we can think, we bounce stuff off with the city manager and different people, but you guys are providing good input. And let us look at that. Let us bring it back in May and to look at that aspect of, is each room transient in itself? Is there anything we can do to limit that?
Or is it more appropriate in the application and not in the ordinance?
Well, if we can provide that, under the transient, that it is, the entire unit is rented as one, if we can put that wording in it,
Yeah.
That's
sticks,
exactly
that's
what I'm
good.
looking
We don't have that right
Sole
now.
occupant while
Yeah.
they're-
Sole occupant,
Sole
period of
occupant,
the
sole,
not single person,
Correct,
but
but
sole
in-
renter.
In
And if
order
we go that
to-
route, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think we're thinking along the same lines. Can we just recommend approval with that change?
you
can't
can.
do that.
You can, and then say, we recommend that staff add a provision limiting to the
Would you say exclusive access? Like a commercial?
exclusive rental for the entire property under one rental, one.
Contract.
Well,
That's
mine,
probably the only way to manage that, because
Yeah, that's-
if someone checks in on Monday through Wednesday, another person comes in from Tuesday to Thursday,
Well,
and it's.
But let me tell you why that's a good point that we haven't thought of. It's been brought to my attention that there's an issue in the Ocoee, Apopka area that people are dividing out rooms illegally and have transient guests that are just solely occupying a room, and there's malicious activity going on. And so if you're thinking you're getting this nice Airbnb house, you meet the owner, Scott Kennedy, and everything's nice, and then you find out the bedroom next to you is rented out to somebody, that's just, if we can stop that, if there's a way, that makes sense.
That's
Do you know what I'm saying? So it's one unit, one, hey,
One applicant.
one
Yes.
sale, I don't know what you
One
call it,
applicant
one
per
booking,
duration.
just one booking for the whole place. So
I'm gonna withdraw it.
Yeah.
My
But-
concern with adding a condition now, I know we have a motion that needs to be voted on.
Yes.
But if that motion failed and you decided to recommend approval, and then it goes to the commission with this condition on it, my concern is, what does the state statute allow us to do? And so we may run afoul of how much flexibility we have because of the preemption.
That's what we
aspect.
would, during our,
Well, that's
because
why-
this will go to a first reading
why
at the
the
city
continuance would
commission,
probably be
and then
better.
it'll go to a second reading. By the time we get to the second reading, public hearing, we would have that answer.
Yes.
This is what the P and Z said, this is a recommendation, this is what we looked at, this is the attorney opinion, we can or cannot.
Yes.
So we could do that.
I mean, my opinion is that, the longer we let it go out, the more applicants we lose. So why wouldn't we approve this now and then make a recommendation to the city council for what you're talking about, right?
Well, right now, people are already doing it. I mean,
See, I would rather do
Well,
the
member
continuance
Mellon,
and come
that
back
does
with.
make sense, because we can make that as a condition of approval, and we'll look at it, other than coming back to say, no, we can't. and having a quick meeting, we can then bring that forward to the commission and keep it going.
Right.
And say, this is, yes, we can, no, we can't, this is how
Can
we're.
I'm sorry, I want to add something for the attorney's opinion. It says that local law, ordinances, or regulations may not restrict the use of the vacation rentals. So are we restricting the use of the
Well, no,
vacation rentals?
we need a definition. A vacation rental is, like a Airbnb, is totally different than a hotel. And there's nothing in here that kind of differentiates the two, and that's my
No,
issue.
there is by state statute.
Right, but then we should reference that in here, in my opinion.
We reference state statute in the.
We can add it, but I guess my question
I mean-
to what Robin was saying is, it's the law says we can't restrict the use
Right.
of the
That's what I'm
vacation
trying to
Right,
rentals.
but you can restrict the use of making it a hotel. If you have an Airbnb with 4 bedrooms and you're leasing out short-term rental, those 4 bedrooms is not an Airbnb anymore, it's a hotel. It's,
it's a bed and
they're
breakfast,
totally
and
different,
that's-
they're totally different things.
Joe, you were starting to make a comment about,
Well, no, I was going to say, in a way, a continuance, I think, might be better, only because if we continue it just for 1 month, we can look at what else, if we approve it with just the one recommendation
With the
change.
condition,
We may be missing things that, given this line now, you may go back and say, okay, well, we need to look at this, but we also need to look at this because of that. And so I'm thinking the continuance might be the better way to go than just to continue moving it forward.
right.
all right, well,
And we may make a determination that, by the language we're proposing, we come back and propose additional language, limiting the rental to just one. It may be subject to appeal, and it may be against Florida law. Okay, but at least we tried.
Right, but end of the day, we
But-
get clarification on it, so that's really what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I think my opinion is, again, we should approve it the way it is, knowing Mike knows what we've been talking about, and have him look at making any of those changes to send to the city commission.
It'd have to come back to us before any changes are
It
made.
wouldn't have to, would it?
If it's continued, it would, but if it goes forward with just a recommendation with as part of your recommendation, a condition, it doesn't come back.
Right, and then you can make whatever changes to present to the city council.
Right. The argument there being what we bring back, it's either going to be lawful or unlawful. I don't think we're going to mince
Right.
words on covering it. So there's not going to be a lot of discussion. No, yes.
If we make a recommendation that the use be limited to the exclusive use of one party, is that changing the use, as they said, the state statute?
I would need to look at the statute and any case law interpreting what a use is. I don't
Yeah.
have the answer for you tonight. I can tell you if the state statute seems to imply that this would be limiting the use, then we cannot do it.
That's what I'm concerned. I'm concerned about, and I think Member Keller's point is well made, that if we make that recommendation and they run into a flaw or get a legal opinion that says you can't do that, then it goes before the commission. It says P and Z voted for this unanimously, and it,
Well, we have a
don't
motion
get
on
a
the
second
floor to,
bite.
we have a motion on the floor to table in a second, so we'll go ahead and take a vote.
Just a point of order, did we decide it was a table or a continuance?
Continuance.
Continuance to a date certain.
Okay. What
Continue
he
to
said.
the next P and Z meeting.
So,
That's
all
the
those in
next.
favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye.
Aye.
It carries 3-2.
Okay. All right.
And I'll just say the reason why I'm opposing it is because I would rather get it, I'd rather get a month's worth of applications that we're gonna be
Right.
missing.
I don't disagree. I just think that clarification is a rather important one to, that distinction.
I think either way, we're not gonna make that decision.
No,
The city
we're not.
council is. So, I think we're kinda wasting our time on that, to be honest,
So,
but,
so let's talk about Sonny's.
I vote the way I do because I think staff should really look into rooms versus bedrooms. Because from a practical matter, rooms are not bedrooms, so specify.
Yeah, we've all probably stayed at places and they put bunk beds in areas that doesn't have a closet, it's not technically a bedroom, but yes.
all right, so now we're at miscellaneous. Sonny's got the house wrap on, getting close.
Yes.
Have a good night.
They got the seal wraps on it, right?
Yeah.
You'll see the The old Fifth Third up at West Road is being under demolition permit to be rebuilt as a Starbucks. And any other questions? I mean, we've done some pre-construction meetings, but I've delegated that, so I can't think of what they were off the top of my head. There's so much under construction right here. The Ocoee Village Center, just so you know, Fuller's Cross Road in North Lakewood, once the school year ends at the end of May, that intersection will be closed and they'll build the roundabout, so it's just, instead of doing it.
I have a question about
yes.
that.
Okay?
I was watching the city commission the other night as they were talking about the daycare up there on McGuire Road. Is, not McGuire.
Blueford.
On Blueford, right?
Yes.
Is it gonna be a roundabout at Main Street, or is it gonna be on Geneva?
So Main Street is not, it's presently designed to have the mast arms put in and
Yeah.
signalized. I was texted during the meeting that in the new Blueford Avenue design and engineering, they are trying to fit in a roundabout at Main Street. I knew, we have one at Geneva, but they are trying to fit one in. They think they can fit it in at Main Street.
Because I think when that was before us, I don't think we even talked about, I don't even think we even brought up U-turns.
Yeah, the median.
Yeah,
Again, as I
Never
said in the
brought up.
commission meeting, the property didn't just land in Ocoee.
Right.
It was commercial, so it can generate
Yep.
1,000 trips. Those trips are gonna go somewhere.
Yep,
The only thing different about a daycare is the tendency of those trips are grouped
right.
at peak times. So the site could develop as whatever commercial, it's gonna generate trips. So to deny a use, the site's gonna develop and generate trips.
Right.
Correct,
It
regardless.
just, does that grouping of trips cause an issue? And are they gonna want to go, hopefully they wanna walk across the road to the 700 units we have.
Did you have something?
That was related to my question, was the discussion at the commission meeting, and also about, you all were discussing the only right turns coming out, and what is that, Oasis apartment? If that interfered with have you
There's gonna
looked
be a
at that
median there,
issue
so
already?
that site is gonna be a right in, right out only.
Right in, right out, yeah, that's
Yes.
what I'm speaking about.
Yes, so
Would that roundabout affect that, or it's farther down?
It's a Geneva.
roundabouts further down.
Further down,
Yes.
okay. Yeah,
Either way,
those
they'll
are
be
my-
able to make a U-turn, make a loop, Main Street down to McGuire back on the 50.
People now, when you go there, they go and do a U-turn. They
Yeah.
come north on Blueford and do a U-turn there
Yeah.
to get to 7-Eleven or ABC.
I go into the ABC and do a loop. and
That's
come
what,
back.
Yeah.
that's what,
Now, Blueford is within the city's control, so you can always
yes,
redesign
that's
that
totally, yes. And
median.
it's,
Okay.
it's under it's funded, it's under engineering design to mimic out front here all the way down
Yeah.
to Old Winter Garden Road.
Okay, so.
With
so
a
as-
roundabout at Geneva and a roundabout at Main Street.
Okay, so as more development comes in, you guys can look at it again.
Yes, it's not Orange County, it's not DOT,
Gotcha.
yes.
Perfect. Any more discussions with the DOT realignment of Silver Star going this way, connect back to
It's number 9 on the list to be funded,
be funded?
on DOT's list,
Oh,
the
okay,
Metro
I was like,
Plan
I signed
list.
the check.
Yeah.
Look at here.
It's right after the strain polls that we've been waiting on.
No,
for
that's
3
not
years.
on the, that's not on the,
Do they have ARPA funding for that? Is there a acceleration of that list, or that's normal funding for?
that's Metro Plan
Metro Plan?
divvies out the funds and the projects for DOT in this District 4, I'm probably saying it wrong, District 4 or 5. And so there's a list, and it's on the list to be funded.
Mike, do you think this year you can put together some sort of ongoing training for us? It'd be great to just get some training hours in on, land development codes or whatever, if we could have some small sessions.
Yeah, because actually, we just secured the PO for a consultant to begin a large comprehensive plan update. And really, you guys provide 2 functions, and as the land planning agency, you're responsible for helping the comprehensive plan. So we will want to do something to help guide you and get you thinking on, you want to know what's the right thing to say in the right time to do things. And you can really drive the comprehensive plan. Now, I can disagree with you, and we can, what at the end of the day shakes out, but that's your purpose in the comprehensive planning is, and we're gonna be doing a lot of data analysis and work and stuff and presenting it to you, maybe in a workshop or maybe in a session, in these public hearing sessions before, after the normal
Yeah.
but that's gonna be exciting, and that's a good time to, do that for
I
you
would
guys.
not mind if we
for
could
you
get
all.
4, 8,
Yeah.
12 hours a
And then
year.
I'll, sometimes, like APA or FPZA, they have a planning commission training. If I ever see one of those come along, I'll send it to you.
Perfect.
You can attend there. And we have new counsel. She might have a different way. I know she's been a professor,
Yes.
taught law, so she might have a different type of a training than what you guys received under Dana.
Yeah,
And we
if
can
you
do
have
that.
something, whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We should warn you, we don't listen as students.
As you can tell.
Anybody else have any other questions? All right, have a good night.
Very good meeting.
Good job.
Good job, Mr. Chair.
To us to split the lot. He doesn't meet the criteria to split. I said, look, we're under a study. I said, this is what we'll do.
Nicely done.